Here's part 3 of Website Critiques with Bryan and Chris. Again, I'm Chris Bowman.
I'm Bryan Caparigi.
All right. And this is part 3 on Katie's website. Thanks again, Katie, for sending in the website. We're going to focus on this episode on the contact page, which is, that end goal when someone's looking through your website. You obviously want to convert them into an actual client of yours. So the contact page is the place that hopefully is doing it.
Yeah. So one thing about Katie's website, and a lot of us are the same way, right? If you're a photographer watching this and you're not Katie, you probably offer several different kinds of photography. And I can tell this from Katie's website because if I click portfolio, I've got newborn, family, and maternity. Think about someone on your website as being one person, because really when we design websites, when you build your website, when you write the content for your website, when you build your portfolio for your website, you're thinking broad. You're building a website for everyone that will come to your website. But that one person that comes to your website, that one person that gets in touch, that one person that books you is one person, and they're seeing it from their perspective only. And so I think it's important to keep that in mind because it's easy to forget. It's easy to design for the masses when we really need to be designing and building for the one person. Mm-hmm. And specifically on your contact form, I think it's important to get them thinking about their session, get them thinking about the impact that your photography is going to have in their life. And the only way that you can do that is if you start kind of poking and prodding them for more than just the basics. So on Katie's site, and again, this is not that different from a lot of photography websites, you have the basics. You have what's your name, what's your email, what's your phone number, and leave me a message. Like, it's very generic. Mm-hmm. I personally advocate for the idea of trying to get people a little bit more invested emotionally, because it increases the barrier to fill out your contact form, which means that those that actually make it through that barrier are more interested. But it also follows this idea called the law of consistency, which means as soon as people start feeling a little committed, they're going to continue to act in that behavior, which means they're going to continue to be more committed, which means they're going to want to keep getting in touch, like keep following through in the conversation. You're not going to have those, if someone, gives you something personal or intimate or, somewhat private, and then you get back to them and reference that, they're not going to just ignore you, right? Mm-hmm. Because now you have a bit of a relationship, a bit of like an insight into who they are.
Yeah.
So I love the idea of saying like, hey, what are you interested in getting in touch about? And then, so Katie has newborn, family, maternity. So maybe you say like, so, talk to me about what kind of photography session do you want? Are you pregnant and expecting? Did you just have a baby and want newborn photos? Or do you have a young family and you want pictures of your kids? Like, if you ask that question and then based on what they answer, ask them a more specific question. Like, okay, if they say family, when was the last time you had portraits done? And why is now the time that you want to have your portraits redone? They're going to give you some insight into their motivations for buying photography right now that you can now reference to speak more personally to them.
Totally.
What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then when you actually answer those questions, you'd have a nice little question here, like exactly, what are you interested in? Yeah. They say, maternity or whatever, newborn or whatever it is. And then that section actually expands. So mm-hmm. It's not there all the time. It's not like, if you answered yes to question 4, please fill this out. If not, skip to, like, nobody wants to fill out those kind of government style forms, right? They're so confusing and long-winded. Having sections actually kind of open and close. There's lots of different platforms that allow you to do that.
Is there any that you can think of that are like just really excel in that area?
What's it called?
Interesting.
I don't know. Yeah.
So we have, obviously you guys know we have Sprout Studio. It's the sort of software. It's our company that powers all these critiques and everything we do in terms of educating photographers. But one of the great ways that you can use Sprout Studio and our contact forms is you can build a really, really powerful contact form, and you can ask questions like what Chris said. We could ask, when was the last time you had family portraits done? But in Sprout, you can say, hey, only show this question if they answer this previous question a certain way. So you can now have these like really powerful, very personal contact forms that are showing them information only when it makes sense to show them the information.
And that's it. It's like crafting that experience. And I think even from episode 1 of this website, we talked about that. It's crafting that experience. You're guiding a user through mm-hmm. something, and you want to make it feel as tailored to them as possible. because that's going to get them to commit. That's going to get them invested in you, right? So that whole process, that's the beginning of that relationship with you, is crafting it. And I think having those tiny little things, like having certain questions revealed based on what they're looking for specifically, is going to make them feel so much better.
Love
right?
it. I'm going to go through and fill out this contact form right now, because I want to see what Katie's doing when you actually fill this out. So I'm going to go. So Katie, if you're watching this, I apologize for filling up your inbox.
You should totally get back to him. Yeah.
If you want to get back to me, we'll critique the way that you get back to inquiries. Hi, Katie. This is for your website critique. So one of the things that I want to be mindful of when you have someone that has gotten to the point of getting to your website and they're ready to fill out and press this giant submit button, is this is potentially a very scary place for a person to come to, because they don't know what's going to happen next. They're sort of sending this inquiry, all these details, whatever it is, sort of like into the internet, and what happens next. So I want to see what happens when I actually press the submit button. I've never done this before, so this is my first time on Katie's website.
You've never submitted a button?
I've never done it. Okay, so good. So I think the first thing is that she confirms that the email was sent. I think that's great. One of the things that I encourage you to think about is, what is the next important thing that someone would want to do after they fill out your website or after they fill out your contact form? Like, they're engaged, they're interested, they're now committed, you have their email address. What can you now give them? What can you now use to engage with them to be like, let's keep, because right now if I'm here, I'm probably gonna, okay, great, I'm done. I'm gonna go back to the homepage and maybe leave or go check out the next photographer or do whatever. Maybe have a video that says, hey, thank you so much for filling out my contact form. Here's what I'd love for you to do. Come over here on Instagram and you can check out some of my most recent shoots. I'm going to get back to you in the next 24 hours. Like, if you kind of had something like that, it would engage them, right?
Totally. Yeah. Because what you don't want them to do is go off to some other website and start engaging with another photographer, and then they do something like that. You have to think of the whole sales experience from day one until you're done with that client and into the future as this journey, right, of them. And once you kind of send them this generic thing, or they fill out your contact form and you just say, we'll get back to you shortly, that whole feeling of interacting with your brand just kind of starts to go downhill, or it's kind of set in this limbo area where they don't really know what else to do. They're just kind of waiting on you. They have no idea when you're going to get back to them. So giving them expectations of when you're going to get back, like something like, I'm going to get back to you within a 24-hour window, and then having a video. That's a great idea, Bryan. I really like that, actually.
If you're interested, we have a course called the Book More Photo Clients course. If you go to bookmorephoto.clients.com, we'll have the link up in the description for this video as well. Come through that course. It's a totally free course, but it's going to walk you through some of these ideas on how you design a website experience, how you design the first inquiry experience, how you design this sort of back and forth that a client will now go through to increase the likelihood of you actually booking that client. We walk through that, we dissect it, we break it apart into milestones and say, here's what you should be doing at this point. Here's what you should be doing at this point. So if you want to go through that, come check out that link to go through that course. Again, totally free course. But I think that's mostly it for this website critique. We kind of dove deep on Katie's website. Thank you, Katie, for submitting the website. And if you want to have your website critiqued, send us a direct message with the link to your website, and maybe we'll pick it for our next critique. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.